To be playing Sega Genesis with bros. Now I'm gaming with some folks on the other side the globe. Used to go through a label if you trying to blow. Now people got more.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to be talking about Impact Wrestling Rebellion pay-per-view from April the 23rd, 2023. So in addition to talking about this pay-per-view, we're also going to do a little bit of news and notes. There was a very hurtful comment made by Eric Bischoff about Impact. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about what happened to my Impact reviews. So those are the only 2 notes we got. Then we'll get into the pay-per-view themselves. All right, so Eric Bischoff made a comment about Impact that I just kind of want to discuss before we really start talking about the show. And this is, nothing he said is untrue. It's just kind of brutal. So here's what he said on his show, Strictly Business, with I think it's John Alba. He says, quote, "It's effing Impact. I can get more people to watch me cooking a burger on my big green egg on a Saturday afternoon than watch Impact. They're not in the wrestling business. They have a wrestling show, but they're not touring. They got no licensing. They got no merchandising. Hardly anybody is watching their show, and it has nothing to do with the talent. They've got really great talent, but it is what it is. They shouldn't even be in the conversation about televised wrestling because it's silly. They're not a wrestling business. If you enjoy that product, good for you and good for them. But to have a conversation about licensing and merchandising with Impact Wrestling is laughable. Of course, they gave Matt Hardy broken character licensing and trademark up because they don't have any reason to hold on to it. They're not in that business." And then that's a very important piece of something that he's been talking about. We on this channel talk about the business of the business a little too much to a degree. But he's correct. The licensing and marketing of Impact is almost near zero. And there's a reason for that. It's because Impact is owned by the company that the network also is owned by the same company. So Impact doesn't have any licensing deals because it can't go anywhere. So, like, what would you license when it comes to Impact? What exactly would you license? The show? That would mean taking the show off the network that the company already owns. When, we know Access TV is like number 95 as far as networks that people actually use. So when folks are like, look at the ratings for Impact, it's like, okay, well, look at what channel it's on. Impact would probably do better if it was on a better network. But it's not on a better network because the company who owns both Impact and Access want those 2 things put together. So that's just how it is. But when you have a network that's pretty much dead, and how are you going to get people to be in any way interested in your product? How do you get video games and action figures and all this kind of stuff done? You can't really, you could license out those products, I guess, but you have to ask the question, like, why don't they do it? They don't have any, I don't know if Impact has action figures right now. I think they had bobbleheads or something like that, or it was a couple of years ago, but I don't know if they have anything like that today. They don't tour. They do travel. They go from place to place, but it's not like a weekly touring brand. They have a place where they tape a bunch of episodes and then see you till next month or something like that. Or, I think they tape 2 or 3 months ahead of time. Not months, weeks ahead of time. So maybe they may have a show that, they do week to week. So they don't really draw big houses, and it's not live, it's taped. So when Eric Bischoff says it's a wrestling show, that's correct. It is a wrestling show. They are not a touring merchandising brand. That is not what Impact does. I do know that they did get into that tiff with Matt Hardy over the Broken Universe. They basically just gave it up to him, and then WWE said, "Oh no, you did all that effort to get it. We don't even want anything to do with it at this point." So they did a version of the Broken Universe, but it wasn't really the Broken Universe. But that thing hasn't worked anywhere outside of Impact anyway, where he got the creative freedom to actually do that kind of stuff. And nobody cared enough about Impact where he could be as wild and as zany as he wanted to. Everything that he's tried to do after that has been the pits. But that's pretty brutal. A pretty brutal takedown of Impact by Bischoff, and it doesn't have anything to do with the talent. It doesn't have anything to do with the storylines. It is a matter of fact. Anthem owns Impact. They also own the network. Impact can't go to a better network because the company owns them and that network. It's the exact same situation WCW had. WCW was, and now TNT, of course, is a bigger network than Access, but Warner, or Turner rather, owned both WCW and TNT and put those two things together. Therefore, a lot of the ad revenue that they could have been getting if they'd have jumped ship to another network, or the other opportunities that could have been created, the financial incentive that they could have had, all that stuff was dead because you're married to this network because you are owned by both companies. And this is what people need to think about when they talk about WWE being sold to NBC or something like that, is that you would definitely kill WWE's ability to generate revenue, because then it would be stuck to NBC networks, and then it would probably just be dumped on some network in NBC, and then that's it. You can't jump ship for hire. You can't bring the negotiating table up to anybody and say, hey, we want this show, or somebody else wants this show, which is what WWE can do now. They can say, oh, NBC doesn't want to pay, we may go to Fox. Fox don't want to pay, we may go to another network, Disney or Amazon or somebody like that. When you're bought by a bigger company, you have no choice. You have no options. It was the exact same thing what happened with Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor was owned by a television network that owned television networks. So that was it. They were only going to be on Sinclair Broadcasting Networks. Sinclair could have separated Ring of Honor and said, we'll license it out to someone else, which probably would have been great. And maybe we could have increased the cost of that, of that television. But they would also would have had to put more money into that TV in order to make it more lucrative for other shows, for other networks rather, to want to host the show. They didn't want to do that. Same thing is going on with Impact right now. You could think Impact has great storylines, and they have some good ones. You could think they have great talent, and they do have some good talent. But ultimately, Anthem does not want to spend the money to make Impact a viable player, even though it's still the third biggest brand, because it got that 20 years of history. But to be quite honest, GCW and some other wrestling promotions are far more interesting than what goes on in Impact. Because Impact, even though it's got all that history and it's been there for so long, it can't go anywhere, and they don't tour, and you can't watch it live. They have no merchandising, almost no merchandising. It's become the hub of the forbidden door, quote unquote, where, New Japan storylines are dumped there. AEW storylines are dumped there. A bunch of storylines from other promotions, NWA, are all dumped into Impact. And that's just kind of it. It's sort of the dumping ground of wrestling. It's a platform, and that's pretty much it. So I think that was pretty brutal, but it was very necessary to talk about that. And let's segue that into why I stopped doing reviews. So I very quietly, I didn't want to announce that I wasn't going to do any Impact reviews. Just like I didn't announce I wasn't doing MLW reviews anymore, or NWA reviews. I don't feel like it's necessary to announce those things. I just wait for somebody to notice that they're gone. And most people don't even notice that they were gone. I did get a message. Well, I think maybe 2 people said, did you watch Impact? Or are you going to do a review of Impact? Like 2 people. And I was like, all right, I'll do the pay-per-view. But the weekly shows, probably not. Thursday is the only day of the week where I absolutely will work. The rest of the days, maybe, maybe not. Well, Friday, I absolutely not working. Thursday, every single week, I have to work on Thursday. So that means I'm coming home from work. I got to watch Impact. Most of the time, I'm just too tired to do a review. And so I'll watch the show, and I may take notes on it. And then when it comes to doing a review, I just forget. And it's also a thing where it doesn't do enough views for me to make it a priority, so SmackDown, Raw, Dynamite, Rampage, even though I don't really want to watch Rampage, it still does well enough in terms of me doing a review that it's worth doing. It's not worth watching, but the review is worth doing, Impact, not so much. MLW, not so much. And NWA, not so much. So I just plus now that NWA is on YouTube, most people just watch it on YouTube anymore. They don't watch it behind the paywall at Fight. So, and MLW is also on YouTube. So you can watch those shows if you want to. But there was a time where I used to review pretty much every wrestling show, like OVW and I also wanted to do reality of wrestling. I wanted to do it all. Then I was like, I don't have enough time, you know. So that's kind of why the Impact reviews tapered off. That doesn't mean I don't watch it anymore. It doesn't mean I hate Impact. As I do this review, I still know what took place at Multiverse of Matches. I did watch that show. I just didn't do a review of it. I watched all the Impacts up to that point and after, so I know what's going on in the stories. It's just that the audience has basically told me that, we're not really all that interested in Impact content. And if this is false, you have an opportunity to let me know, because I don't have a problem doing reviews of Impact. I watch Impact. I watch it all the time. So I just don't always take the time to do a review. So let's get into the show. 10 minutes in, finally, let's do the show. Apparently the women's tag team championship match was on the pre-show and I didn't see it. Because it wasn't on this card. I watched this entire show from top to bottom. The women's tag team title match was not on here. But I did see that the Influence, who are the tag team champions, they did retain the titles. So the storyline going into the match was that Caleb with a K was basically being a ping pong ball between the two groups. And now Caleb Connolly has left Impact. And now that he was gone, the storyline was going into it that now the Influence or the Inspiration can focus on winning the tag team titles. How they went from being pretty much the star free agents of Impact to now being on the pre-show, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question, bro. I promise you I don't. But the Influence, which is Madison Rayne and Tennille Dashwood, they are still the women's tag team champions. It's going to be hard to tell for me to remember to keep calling it knockouts. I don't think I missed anything by not watching that match, but maybe I should have watched it. Yeah. Jay White versus Steve Maclin versus Chris Sabin, an unnecessary triple threat match. This match is built off of the Chris Sabin Jay White match from Multiverse of Matches, where Chris Sabin actually scored a pinfall victory over Jay White, and I think it was at that point that I was kind of like, Chris Sabin has got to be like. I mean, I think he was the first person to kick out of the 3D. He was former world champion. Very odd decision. And now he's the guy who beat Jay White. Like, Chris Sabin is really, they must love him in Impact. Maclin, he came out as the full Punisher in this joint. He's wearing the Punisher face makeup, which I thought was okay. Chris Sabin actually loses this match because Steve Maclin rolled him up with a crucifix. The match was fine. Jay White loses again. I don't know. Look, we're at the point where, again, the Bullet Club is in a thing with Honor No More and Jay White wrestling Chris Sabin because he lost to Chris Sabin before. And then Steve Maclin is just, he's just a rogue. He just gets involved in things. And it doesn't seem like anybody's going anywhere. Like, none of this stuff has, and because Jay White is not a regular in Impact, it's not like it's a threat of him becoming the world champion anytime soon. So it just seems like sometimes these guys get on the roster and they're just basically hamsters on a wheel. Steve Maclin is another one. He's just kind of there. He's just got to has matches, and that's kind of it. All right, so I guess we get into the main event pretty fast. There was a backstage segment where Jade, I think her name is Jade Chung, who is the wife of Josh Alexander, was given a bit of a pep talk, and she gave the backstory of the feud with Moose, where Moose has been terrorizing her from the beginning, from Bound for Glory, where he stole the title from Josh Alexander while she and her son was still in the ring, embarrassed him in front of his family. Then Moose showed up at her house. That was very interesting. And then also Moose speared her during an indie show. It really helps that she's a wrestler, so she kind of, that poor baby though. I hope they just explain to him like, oh, mommy's okay. And so Scott D'Amore tells her, Josh Alexander rather, tells her that it's not about the title anymore. It's about making sure that Moose understands there's consequences for his actions. And as he says that, Scott D'Amore appears and says that, he says that you've always needed your coach and not for me to give you life advice. So I'm telling you as your coach, you need to put your anger in the back pocket. You need to focus on out wrestling him and becoming the world champion. And Josh Alexander kind of just took that to heart. So when we come to the main event, that's kind of the story going in, is that Josh Alexander defeats Moose to become the Impact World Champion. But that's the story of the match, is that Josh Alexander, his family is the centerpiece of the story. So he comes to the ring with his son, who is like 4 or 5 years old. And the little boy is doing his dad's entrance and everything. Is incredibly cute. It gives me Ricky Steamboat vibes, where it just reminded me so much of like a Ricky Steamboat type of entrance where he would, bring his son to the ring. That was very cool. And in wrestling the match, you would think that this would be somewhere near a blood feud, where, you would just tear this guy apart. But the story of the match is that Josh Alexander has to maintain control over his emotions and not let Moose get the best of him. Because if he gets distracted, Moose is going to take advantage and beat him. So we start with a takeover, like a fireman's carry takeover. And not, him just wildly throwing punches at Moose, but him out wrestling Moose. And Moose gets a little bit frustrated, smacking him, trying to get him to rile up a little bit. So this makes sense. Later, as Moose is getting frustrated, he kind of makes his way over to Josh Alexander's wife, and he's jawing with her. And then Josh Alexander gets angry, comes outside the ring, and then Moose takes over. So that gives Moose the advantage. So you created a weakness in the wife, then Moose comes, lures Josh Alexander into a trap. All right, cool. So despite the fact that this was sort of the story going in, I felt like this match was far too normal of a match. This match felt like a regular match, not a feud between a guy who has been stalking your wife and you. Like there was some spurts of aggression, exceptional aggression from Josh Alexander. Like when he was stomping Moose in the face, the 10 German suplexes that he did on Moose. When he slung his headgear, he took his headgear off and threw it at Moose and, started, slinging slaps at him and stuff like that. That stuff was kind of okay, he's waking up. But to me, it felt like it was too normal of a match. The heat and intensity of the match did not match the heat and intensity of the feud. You understand? So Josh Alexander winning is the right call, of course. Moose has been champion for, I think, 6 months now. Impact has done a great job, fantastic job of really building up Josh Alexander as sort of their new centerpiece as far as the company is concerned. And now, since he's already still involved with Honor No More, he can go and do that thing too. And that could be very interesting as well. So I appreciated it for what it was. And that's all good. The second match on the show, Taya Valkyrie defeated Deonna Purrazzo with the Road to Valhalla to win the AAA Reina de Reinas Championship. Taya Valkyrie made her return at Multiverse of Matches when she popped up and made the challenge. She didn't appear. I think she may have done promos, but that was it at the impacts between Multiverse of Matches in early April and Rebellion in late April. So Taya hasn't been on the show that regularly. I think she basically just came in to get the belt and then she's going to be gone. So technically, Deonna Purrazzo is not a champion at all anymore. I'm guessing because Mercedes Martinez was made the interim, quote unquote, Ring of Honor Women's Champion. So what ended up happening, and I don't know if I said this because I didn't do a Multiverse of Matches thing, but I did do a review of the Ring of Honor show. But Multiverse of Matches, Deonna Purrazzo wrestled on that show. And that was the same night as the Ring of Honor show. So that's why Tony Khan did the interim thing. And Deonna Purrazzo has really been doing a good job of ranting and raving about the whole interim Ring of Honor Women's Championship anyway. She's been doing a great job of that, being I'm the only Ring of Honor Women's Champion. And they're really kind of building that thing up with her Mercedes Martinez. But theoretically speaking, we could just say Deonna Purrazzo isn't a champion at all because Ring of Honor doesn't exist. It doesn't have shows. So she's champion of a company that is, in theory, exists in name only. And she just lost the AAA title. So she went from champ to like half champ. Like she's like a co-champ with Mercedes Martinez. But even though she's the lineal champion, she is what they call the lineal champion. She beat the champion. Mercedes Martinez did not. So technically she is still the Ring of Honor Women's Champion. Now the match was solid. I'm surprised nobody mentioned this, but Taya was like the first real victim of Deonna Purrazzo. When she was coming in, on into Impact. Taya was on her way out. So Taya had already signed to NXT, and she was basically just doing jobs on her way out. And, she got brutalized by Deonna Purrazzo and really set up this entire run that Deonna's been on. And so it kind of makes sense that, 2 years later, a year and a half later, or whatever, however long Taya's been gone, that she would come back and beat Deonna. And so this was fine, but Deonna's, still one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, and she's stuck in this limbo of she was champion in Impact for so long that, the only option they would have is to give the belt back to her or have her do a bunch of jobs to Tasha Steelz. And since Ring of Honor doesn't really exist, she is the champion at the whim of Tony Khan, who could, just decide that Mercedes Martinez is the rightful champion because that's what he wants. So Jonathan Gresham did end up signing to Ring of Honor, and maybe Deonna Purrazzo will end up signing too, but we don't know what the hell is up with her deal in Impact. So she's in limbo. She's in a real tough state. And this is the problem with everybody sharing talent. This is a big issue, and this would come up again later in a minute with Jonathan Gresham. Now, as a matter of fact, let's talk about it now because it wasn't on this show. Jonathan Gresham was supposed to wrestle Eddie Edwards on this show, but he got hurt at Battle of the Belts, which was the same night that they announced that he was signed to Ring of Honor. So he was going to be working Ring of Honor, and he was also going to working AEW and also working Impact. And he got hurt. He got a concussion. So he got pulled from this show and replaced with Chris Bay. And I'm guessing Eddie Edwards beat Chris Bay. Again, that was probably on the pre-show. I didn't see it. So that's the thing, man. We just talked about this a minute ago when it comes to what kind of promotion is Impact, where, a lot of their wrestlers are stuck in this limbo where they work in other places and they could get jobbed out there. They cannot look that good there, or they could look great there, and it doesn't have any bearing on what's going on Impact. They can't, build up and maintain any momentum. So that sucks. But Tasha Steelz, she came up next. So we're going to be talking about the women's title. Tasha Steelz welcomed back Taya and said she is a champion, but she's the champion, and that Tasha beat the greatest women's champion of all time, meaning Mickie James, and that Rosemary has been chasing the flavor since 2020, and that she's going to drag her to Pettyville, to the Hard Knocks of Steelz. I have no idea what any of that meant. But Tasha Steelz defeated Rosemary to maintain the Impact Knockouts women's title. This match was very solid, actually. It was not that bad. And I want to take a moment to really kind of give credit to Rosemary, because she's been in Impact, and she's been like one of the few people that has never actually left. Now, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, they leave and come back. They have long stretches where they're not even there anymore. Rosemary, to my knowledge, has not been gone outside of injury, off TV. She is always there. And she's always been there. And she's been there for over a decade. Like, when you talk about legends as far as Impact is concerned, Rosemary got to be top 3. I'm saying, like, everybody else leaves. AJ Styles left. Samoa Joe left. We talk about Sting left. Josh Alexander even left. Because he was gone for a little while. I think that was a visa thing. But Rosemary never leaves. She never gone anywhere. She never even attempted to go to another promotion. So outside of injury, Rosemary has got to be like the most consistent Impact wrestler ever. In terms of, I think she might have even started her career here as far as televised wrestling is concerned, and has been here the entire time. So she deserves a lot more credit, and she's actually not that bad. She's in better shape than she was in before. She really knows her character, and she knows how to lose and not lose face. So this was pretty cool. They did a storyline with Havoc, where Havoc was ejected from the match due to Tasha Steelz smacking her. And then she grabbed Tasha, of course, and the ref saw that and had Havoc ejected. And then after the match, Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans was teasing Rosemary, and Rosemary got saved by Havoc. Rosemary got this match because I think she won a battle royal at Multiverse of Matches. I know a lot of people are kind of like, ooh, Rosemary, she's like the female Kane of Impact, but it is what it is, man. I like Rosemary. I think that she's, she should get a lot more credit for her dedication to this company. even though most people don't seem to be too dedicated to this company. Hell, at this point, Rosemary should inherit the fucking company. They should sell it to her for whatever she's got in her pocket. The third match on the show, Speedball Mike Bailey versus Trey Mcgill versus Ace Austin for the X Division Championship. They did the storyline going into this match was Ace Austin and Mike Bailey being buddies. They were partners. At least Ace Austin was trying to be buddies with Mike Bailey. And Mike Bailey was being like a dumb ninja, I guess. Being very naive, almost like Jackie Chan in the Jackie Chan movies. And the last following Impact, he turned on Ace Austin by kicking him in the head, kind of reminded him that, yes, Ace Austin, I know that you're a scumbag and I'm not really taking you seriously. So that brings us to the triple threat match. So this kind of necessary, where Ace Austin and Mike Bailey were trying to become friends. But in any event, Ace Austin wins the title with the fold on Trey Mcgill. So Trey Mcgill actually took the loss in this match. Very interesting. Ace Austin is in his third reign as the X Division champion. Hopefully this one is not just temporary so he can drop the belt to Mike Bailey in a one-on-one match, which is what it feels like. But Trey Mcgill, hopefully he can move up the ranks. They really need they need main event talent in Impact. They need main event male talent, and they don't really have it. They need it badly. All right, so Eddie Edwards cut a promo basically saying that Jonathan Gresham was supposed to get this beating, but Chris Bay butted in their business, so they had to take him out. Then Taven and Mike Bennett says that Impact is going to have to put a crown on this kingdom, which of course is harkens back to their name in Ring of Honor. This brings us to the tag team gauntlet match. It was 8 tag teams in a gauntlet style. We started with the major players, which is Matt Cardona and Brian Myers, who put themselves back together as a tag team on Impact, along with Chelsea Green. They're now known as the major players. I think that was what was their name in WWE? Were they the Major Brothers in WWE? I don't remember what it's called. They're the major players now. I don't mind this stable. And I think that, Cardona and Myers, they work well together, obviously. And Chelsea Green as their, female member is pretty cool, too. I don't mind it. Their first opponents were Jordan Grace and W. Morrissey. Oh, boy. Mixed tag shit. Obviously, the major players won. And then following that match, Morrissey powerbombed Chelsea Green through a table. So that was hilarious. It was pretty wild. The major players were then defeated by the Good Brothers, Magic Killer, 1, 2, 3. The fourth team was Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice, who were very quickly defeated by the Good Brothers. Then Rich Swann and Willie Mack, who were also defeated by the Good Brothers. Then the Good Brothers were in the ring when Vincent and Kenny King of Honor No More came down to the ring. They were kind of tricked into thinking they were the next opponents. They were then attacked by the OGK from behind, and the OGK defeated the Good Brothers. Next, Rhino and Heath came down and defeated OGK, and then they were defeated by Violent by Design. So we had this long gauntlet where the champions came in last and won. So, come on. We didn't learn anything from this. We didn't gain anything from this. All right, we got a vignette for EGV. I have no idea what that is or who that is. I looked it up, and if somebody says it's Sami Callihan, that he's on his way back from injury. Yay! Whatever. So the fourth match and the last match that I saw, well, not the last match that I saw, but the last match on this list to talk about was Jonah versus Tomohiro Ishii. And I just cannot get away from Tomohiro Ishii. Fuck. Oh, I would like to watch a wrestling show that doesn't, put their head in this guy's lap. It was a quote-unquote hard-hitting affair between quote-unquote big bulls, quote-unquote. And, of course, it just means that it was boring to me. What surprised me that Tomohiro Ishii actually won the match. Because you would think Jonah would be the guy that they would be pushing in Impact. But since he works everywhere, it doesn't matter. He's another guy that's a hamster on a wheel. He comes in. He's feuding with PCO still, I think. They've had another match in which Jonah damn near killed him. And then Vincent had to shock PCO back to life. None of that mattered here. That's just what Jonah has been doing since he's been in Impact. And I don't see the point in just paying for these guys and they're just there because like they're not doing anything of note. They're not doing anything that matters. So that is Rebellion. It was an all right show. Just it felt very inconsequential up until Josh Alexander won the world title. Then it's like, okay, finally something happens that, you know, feels like something needed to happen. And that's really a big problem with Impact is nothing feels like it matters beyond that week. We need like some wide changing impact. Like that was the good thing about Honor No More. It felt like it was honestly something changing. You know, it felt like something honestly was going on. And there was a lot of intrigue around that. And then they killed it by making Honor No More regular members of the roster. And so now they're just kind of regular members of the roster. Like, yeah, they got, you know, some pretty decent talent here with, you know, Vincent and Kenny King. So Vincent and Kenny King, I like them. Taven and Mike Bennett, though. Maria, nah. Speaking of Maria, she started up her own wrestling promotion, apparently. It's going to be an all-women's wrestling promotion. And good luck with that. So there that goes. Let me know what you guys think about all of this stuff I've been talking about here. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace.